What's up with the YouTube? This your boy Expat D, and today I've got a really powerful video that I guess I was moved to bring to you guys. Well, the name of this video today is 7 things that Africans need to understand about African Americans. Okay, I'm Expat D, and really my mission, I'm an expat. I've left the United States, and my mission is really to travel, and I'm interested in leaving the United States and trying my luck somewhere else. I really would like to return to Africa. Okay, but I think there's a lot of, on both sides, misunderstandings. So on to my list. Number one, I think what's very important is, number one, I think Africans and African Americans have been turned against each other through the media. Okay, what I mean by that is, growing up in America, really the images that we saw of Africa is always poor, starving. You'd see like these commercials where you could feed a kid for a day. And really, when I travel all around the world, when they talk about donations or poverty, it's always like the darkest skinned person, even in other countries, right? When I see it, that's always associated. Poverty is always associated with Africa, somewhere in Africa. Okay. Now, on the flip side, when you look at African Americans, we're viewed like with Africa as, being like on drugs or like, yeah, mostly like drug addicts, and, we don't work, and like we get like government assistance, um, things like that, thugs, be careful. And there's so many where I've noticed this, particularly like African people that moves to America, and they're advised like, oh, don't mix with African Americans, right? I've heard this conversation goes on, and unfortunately, um, they really don't have the social capital. That's why I wanted to come out with this video. At least you could hear it from the horse's mouth, so to speak, right? Because a lot of this is there's things that's hearsay, but you want to hear it directly from someone that's African American, because I think the media does this. They really have an agenda when it comes to like the rap music, when it comes to the movies, and it's funny because when you look at like Hollywood and TV, they don't do it to their own people. When you look at let's say white Hollywood, okay, they don't. They always try to make themselves be the good guys, right? You don't see them as like the drug addicts, and the music. They're not saying these things to downgrade their women and their community and things like that. That's an agenda that's been put on us. All right, let me get to number two. The legacy of slavery still shapes our identity. Okay, so when you look at it, we never chose, like, the era that I'm in. I'm exploring Africa. Okay, I've got a chance to go to a couple of countries, but I feel like this is my turn now. This is my choice. I didn't get a choice. My ancestors didn't get the choice of being taken away. Now I have my choice going back. Okay, so it's my turn now. But as an African American, I do feel rootless. I mean, I'm someone that grew up with both parents. Okay, I'm fortunate. However, I kind of understand a little bit of what it feels like for someone that does like never met a parent. That's how I feel about Africa. Like I kind of wonder, like, I wonder where my ancestors were from. I don't know. So it's always like I feel kind of rootless. Sometimes I look at different people that immigrate to America, and they know exactly like where they came from, and they know the country, and they've got a bunch of people that look just like them. They go to a hometown. There's so many things that there's so many advantages to that. And I am kind of jealous of that. All right, number three, our culture was created out of survival. Okay, when you look at things like hip hop, soul food, slang, fashion, these aren't just trends. They're expressions of identity that's built under oppression. When other cultural connections were stolen, right? So, we just don't have the link when it comes to where we came from, and that disconnect is really powerful. I would love to know, where my people came from. Okay, on to my list. Okay, next item: African Americans don't all think the same. Okay, and I think this is something that kind of goes both ways. I think when we look at Africa like as one big country, and that's a continent with several different countries. Well, just like African Americans, here's the thing. I think they try to stereotype us in the TV and the movies into thinking like, we all like hip hop, or we all, are from the ghetto, or we're all like drugs, and like basically we don't have moral values. So that's really important to understand that yes, we do have moral values. We're not about all being thugs and just this agenda. That's the one thing that I find as a traveler. The toughest thing is I can't beat I can't beat the stigma that was put on me by the media. It is so powerful. Millions of dollars have been put into, different rappers, just basically like giving me an identity, right? That it's not me, but so many I've heard about, like, just all the, just the thug and gangster stuff and all that stuff that you see on music videos and TV and movies and stuff like that. And to me it really sucks, because I didn't choose that. And I feel like different cultures, they 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 don't have to fight the same level of stereotypes that we do, right? Or their stereotypes are more positive, right? Like if you look at Asian people, oh, you're good at math, okay, or you're smart, or you're good at technology, things like that. Yes, like I wouldn't mind having that as a reputation. You know what I mean? Living up to the stigma of being good at math, right? So, but the thing you got to understand is when it comes to things like, you know, we're very diverse, African Americans, when it comes to religion, when it comes to lifestyle, when it comes to politics. And then there's a lot of agenda out there that's just kind of assume that we're all alike, and we're very diverse. Okay, just like in Africa, you guys have different tribes. Okay, same. Um, Now, next point, there's pain in being disconnected from Africa. Okay, so a lot of African Americans, we wish we knew what tribe we came from. Okay, the language, the homeland. Um, I mean, there are DNA tests that are out there. I don't know. To me, there's some debate about the DNA test, I think, but there's a lot of pain, in knowing where you came from. Just like a child that grew up without a father or a mother. It's the same pain, but we feel that. That's something that we feel as African Americans. Um, my next point: the struggle is not the same as those in Africa. So it's a different struggle. Uh, I think really what people in Africa think is that, like, how can there be poverty? Like, particularly, like, let's say in the African American community, And here's the thing: there is poverty, but we're not the majority of the poverty. If you really look at the statistics, a lot of that is really just a picture that's been painted. Like if you look at like different government assistance programs and things like that, we're not the majority that's on there. That's really what's been painted, right? A stigma that's been put on us. But it's a different type of poverty that it is in Africa. You know, it does hurt. Um, and then also, many African Americans, we feel kind of invisible in our own country. All right. So despite living in a rich nation, we still feel kind of invisible. You know, just that's just how a lot of us feel. Next point, the connection to Africa. It's emotional, not practical. And so, what I mean by that is, for a lot of African Americans, Africa is more spiritual than it is physical. You know, we know that we came from there. We know it's powerful. We don't really know like what we're tracing it to. It would, you know, for a lot of people I talk to that talk about Africa, we, you know, especially the ones that will be like, oh, I want to go back to Africa and all that stuff. It's like, well, where? And it's like, it's more of like, it's more like, yeah, a spiritual thing. It's almost how some people feel about like a particular like holy land or Mecca or something like that. That's how a lot of us feel about Africa. Like we can't really put it on a particular country. It's more of a spiritual thing. Like, and I'll tell you what, having gone, like I've been to Africa. I've been to, I think about 5 or 6 African countries. When I go there, to be honest with you, it just feels right. I'll be honest with you, it feels right. Something feels very familiar. And there's some cultural things that I see in Africa that it just seems so familiar. Even if it's the first time I've gone to a country, I'm just like, it has a feeling of like it's real. Like I almost feel like I'm at my grandmother's house. It's a real feeling, you know, when you do as an African American going back to Africa. But just know that, you know, moving back, those that are interested in moving back to Africa, it's not just about like cheaper living. It's really about reclaiming pride. That's what it is to me. It's not just about like, it's more than just those that want to go. It's more than just about getting out of America. It's a pride thing. And like you know, I really, there's a lot of strength in seeing people that have your same skin color. Um, Being in at least on a continent that I know I originally came from there. There's a lot of power in that. Okay. All right. So those are my items that I have on my list. I'd love to hear from the comment section. You know, even African Americans, what would you add to this list? You know, what do you think you're most misunderstood about? I really feel like videos like this are it's really powerful because this is our chance to put things in our hands. You know, there's no script. I'm not, you know, like I'm not coming here from a TV network or anything like that. I don't have like an agenda. This is just my raw, honest truth, you know. And I think really we need to have these conversations so we get to understand each other because I think on both sides we're very misunderstood. So I think, you know, these conversations are worth it. They need to be had because I think we are very similar people, African Americans and Africans. And I think we're purposely trying to, you know, be turned against each other. And I don't think that's fair. And I think we're way more alike than we are different. Anyway, I'm Expat D. If you know, like my channel, if you're moved by this video, like, share, subscribe. I've got a lot of other videos. And yeah, I hope to see you in the next one. I'm going to end it here. Peace and I'm out.